Hello, welcome to our 43rd episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intel briefing. My name is Laurie Iacono. I'm Associate Managing Director with our cyber threat intel team. I'm filling in for Keith Wojcik this week. And this week I'm joined by Dave Truman, Ryan Hicks, and Sarah Becker, who are my colleagues on the cyber threat intel team. Today is March 26th, 2024, and we're going to be covering what our team is witnessing in the trenches. Before we get into that, a few things for situational awareness or news you can use this week. The first is a joint advisory on distributed denial of service attacks. This is a joint advisory that was released by CISA, the FBI, and MS-ISAC, providing information and guidance to organizations on how to deal with DDoS attacks. And I can tell you from Kroll engagements recently, we have seen an uptick in clients coming to us facing these kind of attacks. So very timely advice here. The next link we have is to a Five Eyes alert on activities by the group Volt Typhoon. This was an alert that was released to help mitigate the threat from this particular threat actor. Volt Typhoon is tracked by Kroll as KTA 162. And in this particular report, the Five Eyes community attributes this group to the People's Republic of China. And they warn that the group has been positioning themselves on critical infrastructure networks with the goal of disrupting or destroying critical services, particularly in the US. So a very interesting and informative report there, very relevant if you are in the critical infrastructure, energy, oil sectors, manufacturing sectors. This is definitely one worth paying attention to. And then the last thing here for situational awareness, this is one that was published yesterday, but there were sanctions levied against the APT31 hacking group. So yesterday, in a press release, the United States Department of Treasury sanctioned 2 individuals and 1 company for their association with this hacking group. Now, APT31, this is a group that Kroll tracks as KTA 107. This is another group that is associated with the People's Republic of China, and they are known to have committed numerous attacks against the U.S., including one against the U.S. Naval Academy. They have also interfered in elections both in the U.S. And the U.K. Electoral Commission. So that's what I have for situational awareness. I want to get into what the rest of the group is seeing. And we're going to start out talking about a vulnerability in Fortinet. So Ryan, what are you seeing with respects to that?
Yeah, thanks, Laurie. So something that we mentioned last week is a new, was a new critical vulnerability, CV 2023-48788. Affects FortiClient EMS version 720 through to 722, which is what we mentioned last week. So as expected, mentioned in fact last week, Horizon 3, who were the researchers and found the vulnerability, they published a deep dive into the vulnerability itself, providing a proof of concept that is hosted on their GitHub. And Horizon 3 state that the SQL injection vulnerability is caused by user-controlled strings that are passed directly to database queries. And the proof of concept provided by the researchers could allow for remote code execution on the affected device with only just a few adjustments required to actually run. And that uses the XP command shell functionality of Microsoft SQL Server. And that makes the vulnerability very trivial to exploit, requiring no kind of victim user interaction to initiate. And Fortinet themselves updated their advisory to state that the vulnerability has been exploited in the wild. That was basically just their kind of just that statement, that they didn't provide any kind of additional details. There does seem to be a limited number of exposed devices, according to Shodan data, as you see on the right there, with just 455 internet-facing Forti EMS servers. meaning the attack surface for the vulnerability is not extensive. However, organizations with internet-facing instances should patch as soon as possible, particularly with this new information of POC and being exploited in the wild. There are several indicators of exploitation that may be found within the 40 client EMS logs file. And within that logs file, it's recommended to check for any connections from unrecognized clients and also look for evidence of the XP_ command shell being utilized. And that kind of covers the kind of POC that the Horizon 3 put forward. Of course, if we hear anything more about the exploitation in the wild, we'll report further. But that's all we have for now. Back to you, Laurie.
Thanks, Ryan. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dave. I know, Dave, you're looking at a couple of different things, including a remote access Trojan and some malware. So can you tell us what you're seeing there?
Yep. Perception Point security researchers detailed a campaign deploying NetSupport RAP, utilizing TTPs not previously associated with the malware. NetSupport RAP is a modified version of the legitimate NetSupport Manager, a remote technical support application. The remote access Trojan has features such as keylogging, file transfer, and settings manipulation. The infection is initiated with a phishing email themed around the user's salary and containing instructions to socially engineer the user into downloading a password-protected docx file. Microsoft designed docx files not to be able to store macros to allow for safer collaboration. The email was sent via a legitimate email marketing service, Brevo, and contained social engineering to encourage the user to enable editing on the document once it was opened. Once opened, the document further encouraged the users to click on an image inside the document after enable editing to view the preview. This is where the campaign introduces the TTP not commonly associated with this malware. The image is actually an OLE object. Specifically, it is a package OLE object. A package OLE object allows for adding a zip archive to Office documents, a task easily accomplished within Word's GUI. Double-clicking this file will lead to it being opened in Windows Explorer, where the user will be presented with a malicious Windows shortcut which will run the PowerShell infection chain. Users should be educated that all forms of attachments can be threats, and that just because an Office document doesn't contain a macro does not mean that it is safe. Now, if we can move on to our malware spotlight. Thank you. TINYTURLA-NG is a small backdoor left behind on compromised systems, believed to be left as a backup ingress point should methods of initial access and primary backdoors be mitigated. The tool is associated with a state-sponsored APT group Kroll tracks as KTA-010 that was seen targeting Polish non-governmental organizations. Interestingly, KTA-010 will attempt to add exclusions to antivirus software such as Windows Defender. Of particular note is the addition of the core Windows Systems directory, System32, to the exclusion list. This directory is a good location to hide malware once administration access has been achieved due to the sheer number of executables in that location. However, System32 being present in antivirus exclusion lists should raise immediate red flags, because only core Windows operating system components belong in this location. This is the directory that KTA-010 often choose to place the TINYTURLA-NG service DLL into. Persistence for TINYTURLA-NG is achieved by creating a service that points to that System32 located payload DLL. The malware is used to perform file and directory reconnaissance with the capability of exfiltrating any files of interest via post requests. The backdoor also has the capability to run both Windows commands and PowerShell commands, allowing it a great deal of flexibility. The tool has also been seen to deploy other open tools such as the open source HTTP tunneling tool. Monitoring for modifications to antivirus exclusion lists and for services being created outside of scheduled updates might help in detecting the threat. Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks, Dave. So finally, last but not least, is our ransomware roundup. And I know I talk to Sarah every day, so there's a lot of chaos in the ransomware landscape right now. So Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen in the last week or so?
Yeah, no problem, Lori. We have two quick updates. First is that we've been noticing a lot of ransomware groups posting the same victims, whether it's just a repost of data or they're extorting that victim organization. Again, we're just seeing an uptick in that. Example of groups are LV and Black Cat just before their downfall. Lockbit, even though Lockbit was seized, they're still back and in action. We're kind of monitoring that situation. 8base and Hunters International. Again, there is no like concrete evidence of a connection between these groups or partnerships, just to indicate why they have been posting the same victims. A lot of ransomware groups have numerous affiliates. Whether those affiliates bounce around to different groups, it's kind of a higher number, but on that side too as well, since the downfall of Elfie and Black Cat, Lockbit has been observed recruiting affiliates and members of those past groups just following the downfall, just to kind of get a bigger base set again. And then our next story is just another group that we've seen. They are newer. They just released a data leak site. But on the site, they had over 30 organizations posted within one day. So this was just a big amount of victim organizations that were posted to the shaming site. Even though this is kind of a rebrand of a previous group, RA World, they're the previous group of RA Group. They were last active with their victim postings around December 2023. So we're kind of monitoring the situation just to really narrow down the similarities between the groups, such as the data leak site, just the look of it, and some of their extortion tactics. So this is just another new group that we're looking out for. And that's it for me, Lori.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, 30 organizations in one day. That'll be an interesting group to follow and see what's happening there. So I'd like to thank Sarah, Dave, and Ryan for their participation this morning, and also all of you who have taken the time to tune in to our weekly briefing. We hope you found the session informative, and if you have any follow-up questions about this briefing or any other questions, please contact our CTI team at cti@kroll.com. Thank you.